Hello there and welcome to my boat shed. My name is Panu and I am building this 15 meter or 50 foot liveaboard cruising sailboat here in very winterish Finland. It's now very cold, it's down to minus 16 degrees and it's now 5th of January and the last week or so has been quite cold and it's going to continue like this next couple of weeks at least, I think. Unfortunately, no glue ups happening anytime soon. I have the heater in my shed here, but in these temperatures, it's just, there's no point to even try to kind of heat up this place enough so that I could glue things. Fortunately though, a couple of weeks back, before this cold came, we managed to glue up the other side of the ballast keel timbers there as well. So they are now both in, and that is absolutely great. So what we can do in next few days, we can start shaping them into their final shape if you want. There might be something else like that to be done here as well. But yeah, no fiberglassing, no gluing in anytime soon, unfortunately. Instead of that, I thought that I could make this video as the first video of this year, as a little bit of a wrap up of what we did last year and what we're gonna do next, now when the planking is getting close. And yeah, the schedule of the planking, it really depends on the weather, really how cold it's gonna be. Because last winter was really, really warm and I almost managed to glue things every week or so. So there wasn't really big gaps between the glue ups last year. Now it seems at least a few weeks should be pretty cold. We'll see about that, how that goes. But now I'm freezing in here. So let's go inside the office there and take a look a little bit what we have done and what we're gonna do next. So welcome along and of course remember to subscribe, give me a like and stuff like that. And go and check the Patreon as well. Now I'm gonna go in. Maybe we could make a cup of tea or something. Alright, this is now completely another cup of tea, because it's now a few days later. I got stuck into going through all the progress I did last year on all the footage and stuff. It's still freaking cold, it's now like minus 18 or something outside, so no progress in the boat so far. Yeah, and it looks like it's gonna continue like this next week to below minus 6 at least. So yeah, a little bit of a bummer, but I also have my kitchen project going on there, so maybe I can do that when it gets a little bit not so cold. It's now too cold in the shed to do really anything kind of small things. But let's jump into the subject of this video, which is of course now first of all going through what we did last year and what we're gonna do this year and the goals for this year. So as mentioned, I got through all the footage from last year and I went and looked what was the kind of the plan, and of course the main goal was to get the planking done last year, but obviously we didn't make that. There was a few major delay factors last year. First was of course in January, my appendix got infected and then I went to surgery. That was full 4 weeks of anything physical work, so that was that. Then the second thing really was the work. So as you may know, I do a kind of a full-time job here on the side, which kind of determines how much I can spend to buy things for the boat and how much I can spend time for the boat. And they are kind of ruling each other out. So if I have more work, I have more money to buy things. If I don't have work, I have time to make both, but then I don't have money to buy things. So yeah, that's kind of the big issue here. I have to say, the Patreon crew that supports me every month, I thank you so much. You really help me to get up, at least with these videos. I have kind of a little bit of money on the side so I can buy the planking stock very soon. Then I probably need to get some more epoxy, because that epoxy is not enough for making all that things happen. Also last year, the summer was very long and very hot. So when it's over 30 degrees here in the tent, it's not really possible to use any epoxy, especially the fast hardener I mostly have right now. So that kind of made it hard to do anything really. But I don't really mind that much, because in general, doing this boat in here is maybe easier because heating is of course much easier than cooling. Yeah. And the fall, on the other hand, was very warm for a very long time. So I could do these glue ups all the way to the end of December. So that is not the case in every year. So the cold weather really started the last week of December. Then there was a couple of trips. We went to Italy with a road trip with my wife, and then we went to the Mets trade, and those took week or two, but in the long run, that kind of accumulates really fast because it takes a couple of weekends off from the boat work. It really easily kind of ruins the next or the previous weekend as well. So, and then of course there was that trip to France. I was going to go to the sailing trip for 3 weeks, but well, there was some complications with that, of course, and I came back, but that was still a week off from the work. So, yeah, but what we did actually made during last year was quite a lot. It was a lot of work, and there was a lot of things to do before the planking. And I did that video more than a year ago of the phases before we started the planking. It might be 2 years ago, actually. Anyway, the idea, of course, here is to make as much things as possible inside the boat before we do the planking. That was explaining that. And the reason for that is it's much easier access right now. The bulwarks are in, the side decks are in, the main structural beams are in, all the frames are in, etc. There's a first bulkhead in as well. So there's a lot of things in the boat compared to the traditional method where you do the hull first and then you start inserting things inside the hull. A year ago I just have received the mast steps, and there were the first kind of really the steel parts. And I think I got them installed before Christmas or right after Christmas. So the year started with installing them and all the packings around them. And there's of course 2 of these, and they're installed with the frames and the big chunks of wood around them. And that was a lot of work. There was CNC cutting things, and milling the material took quite some time. And it was kind of precise work as well. I needed to make them all fit very well between the frames there. All that kind of fitting before actually gluing it in. The gluing was kind of straightforward, but it took a whole day to do that. Just one glue up in there. But they were then installed, and they look nice, and they are now all finished mostly. So that's that. And then there was these ballast keel timbers. We just finished second one of them a couple of weeks back. And that basically took a whole year kind of figuring out. There was a lot of things to figure out because at the start of last year, I really didn't know how I'm going to do those. That was an endeavor. They are made of oak. I had oak lying around here. All that oak needed to be milled, sanded, wiped, glue, and machined with the CNC and then fitted to the boat. But it wasn't just that easy because the first pieces were just the start. And the rest of the ballast keel timbers needed to do. I just needed more oak there. And all of that, you guessed it, needed to be milled, sanded, cut, wiped, glued, and CNC machined to their shape. As mentioned, all these things beside, I also needed to design all of these. So I needed to model them here and kind of figure out how I'm going to machine them. And that took quite a lot of time as well. I'm so happy that they are now completely done. They are now on their place. The other side is on its place as well. All they need now is to kind of clean up before we do the planking. So they are now all glued in, so no additional gluing there, I hope. There might be some things to kind of fiddle a little bit, but they're there. They are glued in, and I'm so happy about that. And of course, the thing is that we got the second side glued just before the cold weather started, so that was a good thing. And what else? Yeah, there was installing the stem. That wasn't really a big job, but it was a kind of milestone. Then there was this side beams. They were a huge job, and you guessed it again. They all needed to be milled, sanded, fitted in, measured carefully, and well, not wiped because they are pine or spruce, so no wiping needed there, but there was a lot of gluing in there. It was a whole day job just to put a couple of layers there, so they are in now, and they are shaped and sanded and finished. That's good. Then, of course, the fiberglassing in late fall, we started fiberglassing those side things in. That was a kind of, well, not particularly fun. I don't really like fiberglassing that much. it's a little bit of a fiddly process, but I think I got good feeling how that works. It helps with the rest of the fiberglassing because everything is gonna be fiberglassed in there, not to have a structure, but to protect everything. And then there, of course, was some other things as well, shaping stuff, finishing all kinds of slots here and there, and for the keel timber. And I also bought quite a pile of lead for the ballast keels, and we installed also a couple of temporary frames in there, and of course the bulkhead. I almost forgot. There was this first bulkhead installed in there, and a couple of deck beams as well. So yeah, it doesn't look like much, but there has been a lot of work, and everything kind of comes into the fact that I have such a limited time to put into making the boat right now, or during last year. There has been a lot of work, which is good. Now I have a little bit money on the side, but we'll see. I think now we can go and check out the 3D model a little bit and go and figure out what we're gonna do this year. I have a couple of ideas. I'm not sure how they will realize in real life, and there is a lot of work with the planking itself, so we'll see. So yeah, here we have the 3D model of the boat as it should be when we start the planking. There is now not these temporary molds or stuff here showed, and we just finished these ballast keel timbers, so they are now in. I actually can change them being white because they're done, like so. They're now done, and all the red things are still to be done. So there is really just one more thing we need to add to the boat, and it is the actual keel timber here. It should be pretty straightforward. I have all the material needed for that. We'll still need to, you guessed it, mill them, shape them in size, and kind of dry fit things, but actual glue up should be pretty straightforward because it is a really gentle curve in there. The placement should be pretty accurate, and it's face down, so it's easy to work with. That is a big job, and I think it will take at least 2 glue up sessions. I doubt that we can make it just with 1 session because it is such a big job, but we'll see. Maybe we can have some kind of a keel timber laminating party here with some people. Then another thing you can see here is the side deck beams. They're not completely finished. The idea is not completely finished yet here, but I think we're gonna at least do the actual beams here, install them. And then one thing is that is missing from the model is those knees. So there should be these knees on these frames, at least for the main frames that are around the masts. So they should connect these frames around here for the deck beams, and the frames will actually extend here around here eventually. So they kind of form a ring frame all around the mast area. So that's that. Then there you can see here is this additional side beam. I'm not completely sure of this yet, if we actually need that, but I still need to figure that out later. The idea here, of course, is that everything we can do now upside down. These are very easy to install. You can imagine how hard they are put up there if the boat is right side up already. So I probably want to do these before we flip the boat, because they don't really affect of the planking. We can do these whenever we still have the boat upside down, so the planking can be independent of these. Another thing of these is that I would like to kind of fiberglass and finish all this upper surface of the side decks before we turn the boat up, right side up. So all the fiberglassing painting would be done before we turn the boat over. They're not really affected of the planking, but I still would like to have those done before we flip the boat. Then there's the thing that isn't really here shown on just a moment. What we're still missing is these cleat mount things. They are modeled here. They should arrive very soon. Yeah, it was a little bit of a hassle, but all this needs to be kind of installed here before we start the planking. So these are obviously a structure to hold the cleats in, and there's 8 of them, so there's 4 cleats on each side. So those are still waiting. Then there's actually the bulkhead here. It's not visible in this model for some reason. I haven't updated it here, but there's the bulkhead, and I want to finish the front locker, of course. But those are the things we need to do before the planking. So not much, but still something, and we need to have the weather to glue things in. The winter kind of now postpones these things a little bit. And of course, the main goal is to have the planking done as fast as possible. That should be a straightforward job when we get it started. Then we need to put the veneers on top. So if I open here, well, I'm not having these tongs and grooves, but the structure is something like this. So there's the planking, then there's 2 layers of veneer on top of that, and then on top there will be a fiberglass layer. Maybe some Kevlar on the front of the boat. We'll see about that if I can afford that. All that should be very straightforward. That's just a big job to be done, and it takes days and days, several weeks, of course, and I hope to get some help with that. I also want to have these finger joints between the planks so that we can machine finger joints in them so that we don't need to have any scarf joints or butt joints with the planking. That would make it quite a bit faster. But then we can kind of start thinking if we can get the boat finished, the surface finished, maybe early summer, then we can flip it over and then start to figure out the inside surfaces. Of course, the inside surface needs to be completely sanded and fiberglassed. I'm not really sure yet of the order of things in there, what should be done first and last. I'm not really haven't thought about that too much just yet, but I think one of the first things we need to do is to make the additional framing. So I need to get the frame making table out there again and make at least 3 more frames. So these are the frames for the mid-mast area. So as I mentioned, there needs to be ring frames, and these needs to be installed in there. You can actually see the idea of the knees as well. So the whole structure is something like this. So it should form kind of a complete ring frame around the mast, and mast will of course go through here. This middle frame obviously is not going to be all the way around, but there's some kind of a large packing in this area to support the mast. So those need to be done, and I think that's one of the first things we need to do when we start making the boat right side up. But then I have started to think about all kind of stuff like yeah, here we have some additional material, so that this is what it should like inside when the planking is done. And you can see some stuff in here. So I started to kind of figure out where everything should go. There are some tanks, and the battery boxes needs to be done. There is some stuff in here. We need to make the hatch for the front locker here. Some steel parts for the anchor. So not sure of the order of all of these, but I think it would be kind of wise to start doing things inside as early as possible. But there's the same thing that with run sailing, that it could be maybe necessary. It's probably necessary to actually try to close the boat as fast as possible. So all the decks and stuff need to be done first. But just so easy access in this stage to do things like that. Maybe some conduits could be installed in this phase and things like that. I don't really know the order. One thing that I have been thinking now recently a little bit is the actual masts. So maybe, just maybe, we start to make the masts this year. That would be kind of a nice little addition, because there's a lot of work with the masts. There is a lot of planning with the mast. We haven't really decided how they should come and how we're gonna do them and things like that. But finished boat here, there's some mock-ups of this thing. So the masts will have these stub masts in the boat. They are permanently installed in there. These 2 stub masts, they are maybe 1.6, 1.8 meters long from the deck, and they will be permanent structures. And then the actual masts will slide over them like that and have bearings in them, so they can rotate on top of that stub mast. So at least the structure for the stub mast could be something we can do. And of course the mast themselves, at least the design of the mast, because they haven't really been designed yet. There's a lot of things to decide. And in this picture you can see that there's just traditional booms in them, but I'm kind of leaning towards fishbone boom right now. So that would make it a little bit easier, I guess. But there's a lot of details that I don't know. For example, how the reefing works with that kind of boom and things like that. So I'm sorry this video was a little bit all over the place because I really don't know what I'm gonna do next. But the masts could be a nice addition to all the stuff. But yeah, but if you think about the decks and interior and stuff, there's a lot of things in there. But also, I'm not sure of everything just yet. As I have mentioned some time before, I would really like to kind of feel the inside of the boat before I start to really do the final design plans. These are all designed, yeah, they have been measured in some aspect, but I'm not really sure if this is the plan. I have been thinking that maybe I should kind of make it much more simple, easier to build and easier to maintain, and kind of having less things in general in there. I think the overall kind of functionality, the deck saloon and the cockpit area, all the things here, I think these are pretty well thought out already. I guess we'll see. Just the first things we of course need to do is to make the structures for the masts and for the deck. Maybe that could be the thing we start with. But there's also these bulkheads here that need to be go in before we do the deck and things like that. They are pretty straightforward. Everything should be easily CNC cut from the plans. They should be super accurate, easy to put in. So there is not really a lot of work with these bulkheads. And the whole idea of the interior, of course, is that everything should be kind of planned very carefully and CNC cut very carefully to make them fit super well without any real hassle. So we'll see. Yeah. But I don't know. This was a little bit all over the place. I thought that I could have a really kind of a good idea what I'm gonna do next, but there's still so much kind of things to figure out that I'm not really sure. But at least we finished the planking, we finished the boat exterior. We're gonna plank the boat, we're gonna put the veneers in, we're gonna put the fiberglass in, we're gonna ferret and paint the boat, the outside of the boat, and that all should be finished. And I would really like to do the actual bottom paint there as well, to mark the water line and have the bottom paint area done as well. I have thought of making the copper coat. I don't know, it can be really expensive. I don't know if I can afford that, but it should be just so much easier to put the bottom paint there when the boat is upside down. But we'll see about that. And we're gonna flip the boat over this year. That is something I really want to achieve, because we are now 3 years into the build and we are 1.5 years late of the original schedule, if I had any schedule. At least the goal, I had some kind of goals to achieve every year, every month, but that just, I don't know if I'm lazy or what, but it just hasn't been possible. There has been financial things and there has been all kinds of things, like a day job. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe this was enough jammering for this. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for being there for me and watching these videos. And thank you so much for every Patreon I have. I appreciate you so much. And now when the planking starts very soon, I welcome everybody to kind of volunteering additional working hands for me. So there's a lot of work with that, but with some group of people, I think it should be much faster than just doing everything by myself. There has been some people kind of asking if they can help, but there really hasn't been that much of things that I could use help with, mainly because I haven't really been sure how to do things, and everything kind of needs a lot of thinking. If there's people buzzing around, I don't feel comfortable of making decisions under pressure that way. So, but the planking, it should be straightforward, and there's a lot of that, so that could be something you can help me with. We'll see. Now, have a great year, everybody. I hope this goes forward. I hope the world gets better. Yeah, that's something. And we'll see in a couple of weeks. And no promises there, because it's just so cold. I don't know if I can do anything in next 2 weeks at all. But we'll see. Bye-bye, and see you.